Devlin.
Yes! Yes! Can they do it?
The Platform.
I'm not into a rugby versus league war, and I never have been, because I actually really enjoy watching both sports. The reason that I keep banging the drum about rugby is because I care. And I remember having a great conversation with Grant Fox when we started Radio Sport, and, you know, the All Blacks lost 5 tests that year in 1998, and we bombed out in the World Cup in 1999. And so many of the players, I mean, I got blacklisted by half the Highlanders team. Wouldn't talk to us for years. And even my good old mate Justin Marshall, Marshy went off. He didn't talk to me for 5 years. And the rugby players just got so sour and sulky about it. How dare anyone criticise us, all of that kind of stuff. But I remember talking to Fox, and he was the first guy of that kind of prominence and with that, you know, just who commanded that kind of respect. He said, listen, the day that people like you stop criticising, stop talking about it, stop caring about it, then we have a problem. He said, then we have a real problem. And so, you know, you hear myself and Mark Watson, we're probably, you know, a very small minority of people who work in the sports media in this country who continually ask these questions and continually try and expose this, because we bloody care about our national game. And I grew up with the national game, and I don't want to see our national game becoming a sideline. But this, at the moment, is a real crossroads for the sport. You know, and you're just an idiot if you don't think otherwise. Rugby for years has existed in this country because it's existed in this country. And the administrations, successive administrations, have sat on their hands just believing. And I've been in meetings where I've been told by CEOs of New Zealand Rugby, what would you know? People are always going to be watching. They're always going to be coming to the games. Well, guess what? They don't anymore. They just don't. And there's a story out today. And if you really want any absolute evidence of the crisis that this sport is, our national game is in this country at the moment, Wellington Rugby Union lost $1 million last year. They're now in a position where they say that they're going to have to sell their 50% share of the Hurricanes. Sell that to survive. They expect another loss this year of well into 6 figures. So I would determine, Locke, that well into 6 figures means probably at least $500,000. If not well into 6 figures, it might be 600,000 or 700,000. Right? So they lost $1 million last year. Now do remember, when the Silver Lake money was handed out a year ago, 27 million of that went to the provincial unions, $1 million each, to try and bolster them up to cover their costs. They still lost $1 million, Wellington. They've now moved out of playing matches at the Cape Town. They go to Jerry Collins Stadium. And you break down because, and this is the thing that they won't show us, they won't show us a balance sheet of exactly what is costing what. And that's because we all know why. And we all know why that is. Santa's pig! Part of it, and a large part of it, is because they are forced to fund women's rugby that makes no money, generates no money, and costs quite a bit of money. When Mark Robinson told us last year, bear with me on this, people, when Mark Robinson told us last year that the NPC is not fit for purpose, not one journalist, or neither did John Kerwin or Jeff Wilson, who were doing that interview, asked the question, hang on a second, okay, so if the NPC is not fit for purpose, what about the Farah Palmer Cup? We all know what the answer to that is, don't we? Santa's pig! It's not fit for purpose. If the men's version is not fit for purpose, how can the women's version be fit for purpose when it doesn't generate any income? So what you're asking Wellington Rugby to do, and every other provincial union around the country at the moment, is, and this is being enforced by the Politburo called New Zealand Rugby, who are just so obsessed with diversity and equality and everything else, to the detriment of our national game and these associations at the moment. They're saying, okay, you got a jeans shop, it's barely surviving, but you're selling enough jeans. We're going to demand that you open next door to that a drive-through burger joint. Yeah, but it's not going to make any money. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's been staffed by women. We need to create jobs for women, and that burger joint. And so you're going to have to bear that loss. Yeah, well, hang on a second. Well, what's that? Just keeps losing money. You're going to have to bear that loss. And I read this from the CEO of Wellington Rugby, and I just thought, how frustrating must it be for you? You know, you're obviously an intelligent guy. You've got this job, and you're being asked to run a business and subsidise a part of that business which is never going to make any money. And all you can do at the end of it is put your hand out again to the national administration saying, oops, we're $1 million in the hole. Because losing that much money for Wellington Rugby, who pays for that now? That's what they do. They just turn to the national administration and go, well, hang on, last year, Silver Lake, you get $27 million. We need it again. Now, I'm not jumping on women's rugby here. All I'm just saying simply is, and the men's game is at the same crossroads. NPC rugby doesn't earn any money, doesn't pay for itself, costs a crap load of money. Women's rugby doesn't earn any money, doesn't pay for itself, costs a crap load of money. At what stage, if you've got any business in front of you, and I know that you're listening and you work hard, and just put it in your own personal perspective here. You're going to work every day, you're losing money hand over fist. At what stage do you have to stop and say, this isn't working, it's costing me money, I'm just getting further and further into debt? And who's going to pay that debt off? This is just common sense I'm talking about. And these are the questions that New Zealand Rugby have got to sit down and honestly address. Just because you want to play professional sport doesn't mean that you get paid. Just because you pick up a guitar and say, I've decided to make a career as a guitarist in a band. Okay, fine. That's your lifestyle choice. But why should I be paying for it? And what do you think? Oh, should we set up another government ministry, should we, where our taxes start paying for people to decide that they want to play professional sport? Look, I understand that all of the women in this country who play rugby work hard, train hard, all of that goes without question, of course. But if nobody's watching your product and it's not earning any money, well, then financially you don't survive. We sit here on the platform. We ask for listeners, we ask for subscriptions. We want clients to support us. If that doesn't happen, guess what happens? We don't survive. We don't exist. You know what? So I can stand here now, sit here and go, demand from the government or demand from somewhere else, New Zealand On Air or something, that you fund us just because we want to be on air. Hey, I do a great radio show, or I hope I do a great radio show. I work really hard alongside Lachlan. We do a great radio show, right? But that doesn't mean that we're going to get paid every week. You know, if there's no money coming in this side, well, there's nobody coming out this side. You see what I mean? And this is where rugby is at the moment. But unfortunately, the way that the national administration works, Santa's pig, totally governed by a few social media trolls, a whole lot of feminist sports journalists in echo chamber newsrooms screaming at them, saying that they are sexist pigs because they don't support the women's game or whatever. And no one is honest enough to just put the most simple economic equation in front of everyone and say, how are you going to fund this? We can subsidise it for a little while. We can support you for a little while. We can keep paying for a little while. But eventually you have to fund yourself. And if that doesn't happen, well, it's an amateur game. It's called supply and demand. It's the most basic of economic theories under a capitalist system, which is what we live by and under and always have done.
Devlin.
Yeah, the next rule.
The platform.